Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Janakalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjali Pranjalina Natosmi. Hari Om. We are at the concluding point of the third Pada, Vibhuti Pada, the third Adhyaya of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We have seen a different kind of Vibhutis, Siddhis as they are commonly called, attained by the yogi in the process of unfoldment of the consciousness. The consciousness has no limits. In fact, limitation of the consciousness itself is upadhi. The consciousness is limitless, and when the consciousness gets delimited, the delimiting adjunct is called a sharira, and when the consciousness gets delimited, the jiva is born. Bhutam. Now the consciousness that is limited in an upadhi called manava, when he decides to remove the limitations, push the boundaries of consciousness delimited by the upadhi or the sharira, he starts exploring different aspects of the consciousness. The exploration of different extents and aspects of consciousness are called siddhis. When you open a door of a treasure, you see a lot of treasure inside. The pearls, the gold, the diamonds are already pre-existing there. They were covered by the limitation of the door. The door, when it is pushed ajar, opened, we see all the treasure inside. Similarly, by pushing the boundaries of the consciousness, the yogi keeps opening treasures after treasures, and these are called siddhis. We have seen all of them, starting from the bhutas. The first, the treasures of the prakriti in the form of bhuta or the matter is something that is dealt with because it's easier to deal with. A matter stands away and apart from me. So it is possible for me to focus or concentrate or do sanyama on the matter and then explore the inner contents of the matter, which are normally not available for the limited intellect or the santa buddhi. The yoga buddhi, the yoga buddhi of the yogi, because of his chitta shuddhata, the sattva guna being predominant in him, it helps him in concentrating on the matter and penetrate his intellect inside to explore the consciousness that is residing in the matter. So that is how the progress of the yogi starts. This progress, when it proceeds in the form of yogi as the meditator and the other aspect of the prakriti as the place to be meditated upon, there is the beginning of what is called as Sampradnyat Samadhi. Each level, each step, as the yogi advances and conquers the ability to penetrate further, deeper and deeper into the aspects of matter, he moves upwards in the form of different levels of consciousness manifestations called the stages of Sampradnyat Samadhi. He starts from the Savitarka Samadhi, then goes to Nirvitarkas, then Savichara, Nirvichara, then Asmita. So this is a stage-wise unfoldment of consciousness. Although he starts from the matter, which is distinct and stands apart from him, as he progresses in his journey, he comes slowly closer to himself. Now the distant matter is no more an act of concentration or the place of concentration. The point of concentration starts coming closer and closer to him. There are aspects in our body, in our manifested sharira, which are intangible to us because of our limited buddhi. If anyone comes and tells you, show me where is your ahankara, we can't show it. If anyone comes and asks, where is your buddhi, we cannot point out. However, we all know that we work through ahankara and through buddhi. That means it exists. It exists in the form, it exists in a particular as a constituent, which is not easily accessible for an ordinary mind. But remember the yogi, because of his chitta shuddhi and ability to concentrate and the progress that he has made in the meditation, now he is able to focus on intangible aspects, which are normally intangible to us, but tangible to the yogi. The doors of intangible aspects open to the yogi as he starts flying upwards into the higher planes of consciousness. The object of meditation of the yogi also changes as he moves upwards in the different levels of consciousness. Subtler the level of consciousness, higher the level of consciousness, higher the objects in terms of intangibility. So starting from the matter, yogi now progresses towards doing the sanyama or the concentration or the meditation upon his own intangible and the minutest of the subtlest aspects of his existence. And the most subtler and the subtlest aspect of our existence is the Asmita. Asmita is an aspect in the 24 tattvas of Sankhya. If we remember the Sankhya philosophy, Tattva Jnana that was discussed time and again, we realize that the Mahat Tattva, the first manifested Tattva of Sankhyas, gives rise to what is called as Asmita. This Asmita is nothing else but individualization, ahankara. The fact that all of a sudden the consciousness, which is borrowed by the Prakriti, assumes individuality, is called Asmita. Prior to Asmita, there is no individualization. There is no differentiation. All that we see right now with us is everything as different and differentiated, multiplicity, diversity. These are the words these are just bywords for our existence. But prior to Asmita, when the Prakriti is still in Mahat form, everything is only cognized as one. The cognition is still there. The moment the cognition itself disappears, Prakriti cannot exist. The one who doesn't cognize, yet makes everything cognizable, is Purusha. When the Prakriti starts from the Mula Prakriti, the dormant potentiality when it is not manifesting, and that stage, the Prakriti is in the form of Mula Prakriti. So it has potential, it is waiting for the right moment, the ripened moment to sprout forward Sarga. After the Sarga, the Mahat Tattva comes into the existence, and the Mahat Tattva gives to the next Tattva called Asmita. Asmita is the aspect of individualization. And from there down the line, depending upon the three gunas, depending upon the predominance of each gunas, the karmendriyas, the jnanendriyas, the tanmatras, the panchamahabhutas are formed. And all that we see in the multiplicity, plethora, exuberance of all these things of diversity around us is nothing else but the interplay of the panchamahabhutas and the trigunas. Yogi systematically has started dissolving from the other end all the differentiation and slowly started marching forward towards the unifying thing. This is called Layavad. Layavad is dissolution, dissolution of the diversity. The first diversity is the diversity of the Panchamahabhutas, the stone, the tree, the mountain, the river, the water, the earth, etc., the fire. So when he takes a matter as a point of concentration or meditation, the yogi is able to dissect through any object that he takes as a matter for meditation and slowly dissolve these differences. Every stage he dissolves the multiplicity differences. He comes to know a new aspect of unification, a new aspect of unified spirit. And this unified spirit's new aspect is called Siddhi, because by knowing the root of the multiplicity, he is able to manipulate the multiplicity. So the yogi, as he advances towards different levels of consciousness, all the manifestations slowly starts coming under his control. And we saw what are those different controls or the siddhis that he gets. Stage by stage, step by step, yogi becomes omnipotent and omniscient. He reaches right at the topmost level being the level of Ishvara. So even he has ability to do what is called as Satya Sankalpa. He has ability to create the universe again. Only thing is, he doesn't do so because there is already a Satya Sankalpa existing of a previous yogi called Ishvara. So his Sankalpa becomes one with Ishvara Sankalpa. When yogi reaches at this stage, his evolution is still not complete. He is waiting for one last final stage or the last final assault on the ascent. The final pick, the Arohan on the Kutastha is still pending. The Kaivalya is waiting for him. He is all geared up for the Kaivalya, but the Kaivalya hasn't happened. Because so far, he has knowledge of everything. Having knowledge itself means you haven't reached Kaivalya. Because being knowledge is Kaivalya, having knowledge is not Kaivalya. So that means the Muktata, the Mumukshata, the Moksha, the salvation, the Kaivalya, the Nirvana is only when there is absolutely no trace of being knowledgeable. When being knowledgeable becomes knowledge, Kaivalya happens. And how does that happen in the last moment? So far, the yogi has advanced into what is called as Vivekajajnana. Vivekajajnana, meaning thereby he knows that he is the knowledge mongerer. He is the drashta. He is the one who is getting the knowledge. The knowledge that he gets is a sarva vishayaka, sarvatha vishayaka. All the subjects under the universe, sarva vishayaka. All the subjects under the universe that have already happened and that are yet to come, sarvatha vishayaka. At the same time, akramascha. We do not come to know about the ice unless the water has frozen. We cannot see ice in the water because we need the transformation kramashaha from water to ice to know ice is formed. This is called kramayukta jnana. yogi gets akramasya jnana. Akramasya means there is no need for the transformation to take place. By knowing the current state, yogi comes to know all its stages till its complete dissolution. Akramasya jnana. So, Eka samayavachede sarva vishaya jnanam he has. At the same time, this jnana is tarak in nature. It is savior. Tarak, the one that puts him across the samsara sagar. How is it that the jnanam becomes taraka? That is precisely the conversion of viveka jnana into viveka khyati. There's a difference between viveka jnana and viveka khyati. Viveka khyati leads to purusha khyati, which is kaivalya. How does this happen? There is a process there. And why does it happen? There is a reason there. Though yogi has reached to the level of Ishvara, where ekokshana arudho uparudha sarve sarvatha grunnati, a moment, instantaneously he is aware of everything that is in the prakriti. Although this is the stage, what has happened during the process in the yogi, till the time he reaches this particular peak or kutastha age, he has become absolute embodiment of sattva guna. The mala and raja is almost gone. It cannot go completely. As we have seen, the trigunas have to stay together. You may have 99.99999 sattva guna, but 0.00001 raja and tama has to be there. Because unless three gunas are there, existence is not possible. Now comes the question, how is it that from the such a highly embodied sattva guna, yogi transforms himself into kaivalya? From the three gunas, how is it that the yogi becomes what is called as a precisely triguna rahita, gunatrayatita? How is it that the yogi becomes gunatrayatita? And this is what precisely we need to see. And this is exactly the purport of the last sutra before entering into the last adhyaya or the pada of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Sattva Purusha Yoho Shuddhi Samye Kaivalyam Iti. When Buddhi Tattva and the Purusha becomes equal in purity, Kaivalya is attained. What is the meaning of this? The charama lakshana of the yogi is kaivalya. He has no interest in becoming God, Ishvara, because Ishvara is inferior to Purusha. Ishvara is the regulator. He is Ishatva. He is the lordship of all the creation. But Purusha is beyond creation. Because Ishvara is within the Prakriti. Maya, illusion, Maya is only when Maya adhishthita. Ishvara astitva is possible when Maya is existing. Without Maya, Ishvara has no existence. What is now happening to the yogi is he is literally stepping his feet on the head of Ishvara to spring beyond it. Now, this going beyond Prakriti is entering into Kaivalya or Purusha. How does that happen? When the purity of the Buddhi is at a high ascendancy, so much so that it has become completely Sattva Guna Bharita. What is the beauty of this particular Buddhi or the Sattva Guna Bharita Buddhi of Yogi? It has no trace of klesha. Klesha comes from where? The klesh is the reason for the karmashaya. Since the yogi has dissolved all his karmas, the good, the bad, there is no karma lavalesha in the chittashaya of the yogi. Because the purity of the chitta is so high, since there are no karma bijas, there are no impressions or samskaras of any vasana whatsoever. Since the yogi has arrived into what is called as para vairagya, there is no desire, there is no vasana, There is no karma sanskar. There is no past karma sanskar bija. Everything is burnt. What is remaining? The remaining thing is only pure sattva guna, the cleanest possible chitta. Now what happens is, such a buddhi of the yogi is now expert in not dealing with this prakriti as bhinna khyati rupa jnana. You are able to see each thing differently only when you have ego. Egocentricity, asmita, ahankar is a must to distinguish things as different. Since the yogi has crossed the asmita, he has no karma lesha left with him. He is able to see everything as one. Sarvatram ekatva anupashyati. Since he has reached a stage, yastu sarvani bhutani ekam eva abudvijanata. Since he has reached that stage, his buddhi is not now bhinna khyati rupa jnana, it is eka khyati rupa jnana. So buddhi has graduated to the level where everything is seen as one. At the same time, since buddhi is nothing else but a conduit for the purusha to enlighten everything, what is the situation of purusha or the consciousness in case of yogi? Normally, the consciousness comes to the buddhi and becomes the reason for the upabhoga. We are all able to take the upabhoga through the indriyas because in our man or buddhi or chitta, consciousness is supplying the energy or consciousness is causing the substratum. Now the question is, when the purusha or the consciousness comes to yogi's buddhi, in that buddhi there is nothing to illuminate simply because it is not bhinna khyati rupa jnana. Then what happens? Then the buddhi reflects purusha as it is. As it is, for what? There is no for what, because sarvatram ekatva anupashyati. Such a buddhi which is purified of karma sanskaras, which is only merely reflecting the consciousness with complete passivity, without an iota of ahankar into it, such a purusha then becomes upacharita bhoga abhava. That means this consciousness is now not getting reflected through the chitta for the sake of vishaya. Now the sunlight is reflecting only for the sake of reflection. And the mirror is reflecting, being the purest medium, only for the sake of reflection. When buddhi has been left with no usage whatsoever for a restrictive use of individualization or ahankara krutata, when the purusha as the consciousness is getting reflected only for the sake of reflection, then there is no difference between such a purest possible buddhi or sattva guna and the purusha. And that is the reason why the buddhi of the yogi, which is sattva guna bharit, realizes that the sattva guna is also of not any use, because gunas can be of the use only when they are used. Now raja is not there, tama is not there because they're in minuscule percentage. Sattva is there, but what is the use of sattva? Because all the jnanam has been achieved and he has got complete neutrality towards the jnanam, which is vivekaja jnanam. So that sattva guna also becomes useless. When the gunas become useless, that is leads to what is called as guna samya avastha. Now there is no more ascendancy of sattva guna required, and depression or destruction of rajatamo is required. Now what happens is the grip on the gunas is left by the yogi. So what happens? The sattva guna, rajaguna, tamo guna remain completely dormant by becoming equal in samyavastha. Moment guna samyavastha is achieved, prakriti is no more existing, because prakriti is nothing else but guna samyavastha getting disturbed. Because the yogi has reached a stage where the gunas are of no use, then automatically guna samyavastha is achieved. At an instant he realizes and throws away all the gunas and becomes guna atit. Triguna Atita, that itself is what is called as ikshan of Purusha, or attainment of Kaivalya. Because now there is a buddhi which is sakshitva bhoga rahita. Even the witnessing attitude of the buddhi is gone. So sakshitva bhoga rahita buddhi becomes such, the bhoga itself being not there, there is no sakshitvata left. A sakshitvata would be a precursor of a sakshi. A sakshi would mean the one who is observing, the one who is witnessing. Now, witnessing presupposes witnesser. However, in this case, everything gets witnessed because the witnessing itself is the nature of the consciousness. So this is a transformation from being to becoming. This is the stage at which Rajasa Tamasa Malarupa Prabhava Rahita Shuddha Sattva Gunatmaka Buddhi stands apart from Purusha due to its Guna Binnatva, but being Klesha Dagdha Bija, being Karma Shaya Rahita, merges with the consciousness. And that is the reason why, because the three guna does not present any bhogya or drushya swarupa, it simultaneously dissolves the drashta, and that itself is kaivalya. Because Bhagavad Gita tells us guna guneshu vartante. It is the guna behaving with gunas, that is prakruti. Now here the gunas have become impotent and infertile. When gunas are infertile and they are of no use, their presence is of no consequence whatsoever. And this is what is called as going beyond the gunas. So that is why in Purusha, in Kaivalya, the light is completely free from mala, amala, and he becomes kevala. There is no guna, there is no guna manifestation, there is no guna absence also. Why? Because absence is only relative to the presence. This is called complete eradication of the gunas. And the moment the gunas are not there, the very existence of Prakriti is over. And such a person, for whom the gunas have completely dissolved, who is he? He is pure consciousness. Because Prakriti, he is an artificial offshoot, which is adhyastha on the Purusha. Now the Siddha or the yogi has reached to the ultimate destination called Kaivalya. So all the Vibhuti-pada is talking about the manifestation of different type of siddhis. Different siddhis are nothing else but expansion of the limits of the consciousness through different layers. Higher the power to achieve this pushing of limitation or boundaries of consciousness, he reaches at a point where there is no more pushing required, because pushing of consciousness means you are in gunas. When he goes to the utmost level, then no boundaries are left. And what is boundaryless is Purusha. Iti Shri Patanjali Yoga Sutra Bhashakhyayam Siddhakhyayam Vibhutipadaha Samaptam. Thus ends the Vibhutipada of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which brings us to the last or the fourth pada of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, called Kaivalya Pada. Mind well, Bhagavad Gita has been our mainstay of study. So are the Upanishads. But the esoteric ideas of Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads are taken into the deep depths by the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutra not only gives us different vistas of the knowledge, philosophical knowledge of the yesteryears, yogis and rishis and munis, but it also helps in understanding certain basic concepts. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvabhati bharata, we have heard about it a number of times. And we have brushed aside this concept as, is the God comes as an avatar and another avatar is formed. Never ever it touches our mind that how is it that the Lord descends down? Does he violate the rule of the Prakriti? And if he comes in the Prakriti, he has to follow the rules of Prakriti, although the Prakriti is subordinate to him. He never breaks his own rules. If that is the case, then since the birth is possible only when you have Papa Punyam, how is it possible that Lord Krishna will come and then what about his Papa Punyam? Since he is beyond Papa Punyam, can he come again? How can he take the body? How can he take Sharira? How can he become Avtara? That means there has to be something. Something must be happening in the Prakriti. For yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvabhati bhara abhyuttanam adharmasya sambhavami yuge. What is sambhava? Not janma, sambhava. The sambhava, the avatar, the formation by God again and coming into this picture. So far we have thought it as, oh, such a Lord's power, etc. No, sir, there is nothing like miraculous power here. Everything in Patanjali Yoga Sutra is explained properly. There is no miracles anywhere in this world. Anything that transgresses time and space is called miracle by the common person. But yogis are always in a position and an ability to transcend the space and time. That is why whatever they do appears miracle to us, but there is no miracle in these things, is what is told by Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Maharaj says, in this Prakriti, in this manifested universe, there is no miracle. Everything happens with a reason, with a process. There is a karya, there is a karana, there is upadana karana, and there is a naimittik karana. And that is how things keep happening. There is nothing left for a guess. There is nothing which is absolutely without any relevance. Everything is related, everything is relevant, everything is disciplined, everything is time-bound, everything has rules and regulations. And in order to know that, Kaivalya Pada helps us in understanding some basic and fundamental aspects of the entire philosophy of Hinduism. And that is why, after seeing so many siddhis, we do see some people around us who have got miraculous power and they are nowhere closer to the Chitta Shuddhi. For example, Swami Vivekananda met with the gentleman in Tamil Nadu who was able to tell him about his mother's health. He was able to guess about the Tibetan mantra that was written by Swami Vivekananda on a piece of paper, even without reading the piece of paper. And mind well, at the same time, he was not an adept yogi, because all he wanted as a Guru Dakshina after telling all this to Swami Vivekananda was, can you bless me? Vivekananda was a yogi, and this gentleman was exhibiting the powers of the siddhis, and he was not a yogi. What does that mean? It means the siddhis are possible even without becoming an yogi. How that is possible is the first mantra or the first shloka of the Kaivalya Pada. Janma Aushadhi Mantra Tapaha Samadhi Jaha Siddhayaha. The siddhis are results of birth, Aushadhi, Mantra, Tapa, and Samadhi. There are 5 ways one can get siddhi. Whether these siddhis are of a real significance or not is a different question. Other than the Samadhi Siddhi, the Siddhis or the Vibhutis that we saw, all other Siddhis are going to be destructive in nature. They have no role to play in forwarding the consciousness towards the Purusha. Yet they are there. So the one which comes by birth is due to the carry forward of samskara of the previous birth. And yogi, to give an example, the Kali Prasad or the Abhedananda Maharaj, when he came for the first darshana of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he looked at him and said that, oh, you are an adept yogi, you are almost done, this is your last birth. Abhedananda Maharaj was not knowing anything about himself. How is it that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was able to read that? Because he was at the level of Ishvara, because he had a kramascha jnanam. He knew the past, the future, and everything. So that is why he was able to tell this. That means Abhedananda was a yogi of the last birth. He had forgotten his sanskaras of yogi. He came in contact with Paramahamsa, started doing meditation, and it kindled the growth, which was anyway. So he was already a graduate. It required only a certification from somebody, and he immediately started his post-graduation studies. In the similar manner, all the disciples that came to Ramakrishna Paramahamsas were adept in their previous birth. So the siddhis can come by birth, but it is not necessary that every person would remember what was there in the past birth unless the samskaras are very powerful. At the same times, the siddhis which come by birth requires a kind of a igniting factor. As we see in case of Ratnakar and Valmiki, there was some igniting factor. We see a lot of stories in Puranas that there was a man who was very bad, there was a Rakshasa who was very bad, and all of a sudden he comes across something and suddenly he turns into the most pious person and becomes a tapasvi or yogi. How is it that in one birth such a transformation takes place? No, sir, it is coming from the past birth. This particular siddhi of birth is described in Vyasa Bhashya as Dehantarita Siddhi. What is Dehantarita Siddhi? By birth, some of the species that are born have ability to transform themselves into any other deha. This is called Dehantarita Siddhi. That means you can take any body that you want. In short, you can become anybody. Anybody is actually any body. So you can take any body and then be in that body or in that sharira. It's like a free flow of water. The water is put into a jug. It will be in a jug form. It is put into a kumbha. It will be kumbha form. It is kept into a glass. It will take the shape of the glass. Similarly, for these people, they can have this siddhi of dehantarita by birth. They don't require to work on it, of course, because of their past. But who are these people? These people are called Nana Sharira Dharina Rupi Siddhi, Deva, Gandharva, Pishacha, Preta. These four people, species, have by birth Siddhi of taking any Sharira that they want. We know about Deva, we know about Gandharva. The Pishach and Pret also have ability to take any shape. That is why the visualization of spirits by many in the form of a tall man, suddenly becoming a small man, suddenly going through the window outside, coming from the door inside, all this, and then flowing like a wind, having some delineation around the face, only the eyes are seen, nothing else is seen, or only mouth is seen. All this is because the ability of Nana Sharira Dharana Rupi Siddhi, which is inherent in their birth. The reason why they get is different. Tivra Kamana Vasana, unfulfilled, with absolute pressure of Vasana, the Pret and Pishach gets this ability. But in case of Deva Gandharva, it is basically because of their meditative abilities. Mind well, Deva and Gandharva is inferior to a yogi. As we saw earlier in Vibhuti Pada, the Devas and Gandharvas keep calling the Murshis and Munis because they want them to enjoy what they are doing. But the yogi transcends the Devaloka and moves upwards. So Deva, Gandharva, Pishacha, Preta, these people have ability to have Dehantarana Siddhi. So ability, the Siddhi can be by birth. Does this ability help in further formation, further progress? No. By merely taking different shapes and different shariras, it doesn't take you anywhere. So the yogi discards this siddhi and moves forward, while these people, they do not, and they get stuck there. The second way of getting the siddhi is aushadhi. We all know that there are fakirs even now existing in the Himalayas and other places who normally keep drinking the ganja. They smoke marijuana, but then what happens is with that, they also develop the ability of clairvoyance. Now, this is not something like just taking the drugs. It, of course, it involves some amount of esoteric exercise, but through Aushadhi, it is possible to get some siddhis, because the mind, the chitta, gets elevated into a different realm with the help of Aushadhi or the Rasayana. Of course, this is called Asura Siddhi. Asura Siddhi because it is a shortcut to a completely unknown territory, and it can lead to different kind of consequences. It has very, very limited or no role whatsoever in the achievement of further unfoldment of consciousness. It is a sure way of getting stuck at some absurd siddhi, and that is why Asura Siddhi is through Rasayana. A mercury is one of the Rasayana which is used by this esoteric Pantha. The Aghoras, as they're called, the Shaiva Panthis, some of them called Vamachar. Now, Vamachar can be of a very high order or it can be of a very low order. They use all different kind of Rasayana. And this Rasayana Siddhi requires always an adept guru. So it's only during the secretive, confidential arrangements that this keeps happening. But yes, it does lead to certain siddhis because it transcends certain boundaries of limited intellect and the person is able to do some miracles. This is called a Rasayana Siddhi. However, a yogi can easily conquer this Rasayana Siddhi. Neem Karoli Baba, one of the most famous adept, who also happens to be the inspiration behind all the three leading digital giants of the world, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and as well as the Larry Page of Google. All the three were inspired by this Neem Karoli Baba. So is Julia Roberts even now. Who was this Neem Karoli Baba? The Baba who was nothing else but reincarnation of Hanuman at Neem Karoli. Now this Baba was tested by some hippies in 70s by giving lots of this so-called LSD tablets, which is nothing else but the variant of the drugs. They realized that this one tablet can cause you to go up into the different levels of consciousness. So they gave it to Baba so that they thought he will take one tablet. Instead, Baba took all the tablets and ate it himself. And the hippies were worried that he will die. In fact, they kept waiting for almost 4 or 5 hours to see the effects on Baba. Nothing happened to him. And then at the end, Baba said, "Beta, these tablets give you different level of consciousness, but that's too little an enjoyment because I am actually basking in Amruta Rasa because I am near the Hanumana's feet." So that is why the yogi is far beyond Rasayana Siddhi. At the same time, the Rasayana Siddhi gives the sthaitva to the sharir. In order to make the sharir absolutely strong and getting not affected by any poison or any aghat, Aushadhi is used. That is why in Ramayana, Hanumana as a yogi, he knew where that particular Aushadhi was existing and brought it for Lakshmana. So that the effect of any poison, any arrow, any aghat on the sharira is completely subverted by the Rasayan. This is called Rasayana Siddhi. This is also there. This is second type of Siddhi. Mantra Siddhi. Yoga Shastra tells us that Siddhi can be obtained by mantras. Yes. Now, Akasha Gamana Siddhi, Anima Siddhi, all these kind of Siddhis can be obtained by recitation of mantras such as Pranava and Gayatri. Now, mantra, tantra, and yantra is a separate and a very detailed topic of study, which is not the present topic for the study. But mantra recitation, if done in a proper way the way which is ordained by the Guru. That is why it is called Bija Mantra, given by the Guru, sometimes on the tongue, sometimes in the ear. And once Guru has made it Siddha and given it to his disciple, disciple repeats it in a particular manner, and then the mantra becomes Siddha. And such a person who has done mantra Siddhi gets the power of the mantra that he is reciting. So depending upon which mantra you are reciting, that is why Gayatri mantra, even at an early level, if the mantra is becoming little siddha in you, you will find that the body temperature starts moving up. That is one of the reasons why generally for the women, this mantra is not given, because it affects their reproductive organs. That means the mantra can have tremendous effect on the mind and the body, provided one knows what precisely is the mantra, how to pronounce it, and it has to be given by an adept, a guru, to an eligible disciple. And there is a separate Tantra Vidya for that. So Tantra, Mantra and Yantra is a different aspect. Anyone who is interested in knowing this can read Swami Shivananda's write-up on this. But this is also one way of getting what is called as Siddhi. Ordinary people can pronounce the mantras, but they will never get the Siddhis, because it is not mere pronunciation. It has a certain technique involved into it, which is then done and taught by the Guru. That is why the mantra is given at an appropriate time of the day or the night. It is given by the adept Guru. It is given in a each person, each disciple is given different mantra. Same mantra may not be applicable for the same person. So that is why this kind of mantras are used. Some of the people also do this Siddhi in Aghora form. I have personally witnessed a Siddhi called Karna Pishach Siddhi, and have met a person who did this kind of Aghora Siddhi through certain mantras and obtained what is called as Karna Pishach Siddhi. When I went and met him, he was able to describe my body from inside. He told me which of my teeth has feelings into it, silver feeling those days, which of the teeth has a feeling into it. And at the same time, after finishing talking about me, he asked me to give him 500 rupees, which are there in the right pocket of my trouser. He was able to see that. This is called Karna Pishach Siddhi. It is not a good Siddhi. It is from Vamachara he got. He had a horrible death, and that is because the Karna Pishacha talks in their ear and gives all the details of the person standing in front of him. This is not a good Siddhi, but Siddhi it is. That is why Patanjali Yoga Sutra mentions it as Mantra Siddhi. Then there is something called Tapas Siddhi. Tapas Siddhi is called Sankalpa Siddhi. The one who does austerities, tapasya. Now mind well, you can do tapasya even though your chitta shuddhi is not complete. That is why there are many people who have done tapasya and got siddhis. Ravana is one good example of it. Ravana's chitta shuddhi was there to a certain extent, but his desire, kamana, has not gone away from him. However, his tapasya was so strong that he was blessed with certain siddhis. And one of the siddhi that tapak gives is, mantra gives different siddhi. Rasayan gives us sharira sthaitva siddhi. Dehantar siddhi is by birth or by species. That is Deva, Gandharva, Pishacha and Preta. But the tapas siddhi gives rise to a siddhi called prakamyata. That means sankalpa siddhi. Whatever they say happens. That is why you will see so many stories in Purana that so and so asura went and did tapasya. After tapasya, he got blessing from Lord, say Shiva or Vishnu or whatever. One of the famous example is of Bhasmasura. Bhasmasura got a blessing from Shiva that wherever he will put his hand on whichever head, he will be burned. Bhasmasura. Now, where from this power came? The root lies into this called Tapas Siddhi. So Tapas Siddhi has very strong mind, but need not necessarily have clean chitta. It could be unclean chitta. The minor aspect of tapasiddhi can be seen around us. You'll be surprised to know that the people like Carl Lewis and Usain Bolt have even been advised and are compulsorily put under a regimen where they have to avoid even the sexual intercourse during the preparation of Olympic medal. They try or they struggle so hard to become the Olympic medalist. It is nothing else but tapasiddhi. There is one austerity that he has undertaken to become the best athlete in the world, the fastest sprinter in the world. And with that motive, he does tapam, and the siddhi comes in the form of what is called as the fastest person on the earth. This is a very mini and a ridiculous example. However, it is an example of how a tapa can lead to the siddhi. Now imagine the same thing being done, because he is doing it with sharira. Suppose somebody wants to do it with mind, stronger mind, he will be getting higher results than the sharira. So tapas siddhi is one of the way of siddhi. And the last is samadhi as the way of siddhi. The entire third chapter, Vibhuti Pada, that we saw is for samadhi, siddhis and vibhutis. That is the right way of getting the siddhis. Incidentally, the difference between the other siddhis, the janma, the aushadhi, the tapa, the mantra, these siddhis are done by the people to get the siddhis. While the samadhi siddhi, the yogi is interested in purusha or kaivalya, on the way he gets the siddhis. For others, it is the destination. And for the yogi, it is an unnecessary accompaniment. Yogi disdains, he dislikes the siddhis. They come in front of him almost as a side effect of his own progress in meditation. So that is why janma, aushadhi, rasayana, tapa, mantra and samadhi, these are the ways of getting siddhis. This is what Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the first sutra of the Kaivalya Pada, is telling. The second sutra, suddenly Patanjali Maharaj now gets into a little difficult subject for us to understand. We have never thought of creating minds. The concept of creating mind is unknown to us. We know we are born and we have a mind, or rather we have a mind, that is why we are born. But we have never heard that minds can be created. Imagine creating mind itself means creating a jiva. So creating mind, we always say that Ishvara creates everything in this Prakriti. But the rude shock that Patanjali Maharaj gives us is, an adept yogi or a siddha yogi can create minds. These are artificial minds. Artificial minds, nirmana chitta. It is called nirmana chitta. It is chitta, but nirmana. Now look at the power of the yogi. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. That is what the second sutra we saw in the sadhana samadhi pada. First, yogi was trying to control his own chitta so that there is no vritti into it. There is a nirodha of the vrittis. Now he has become so powerful that not only he has controlled the chitta of himself, he is able to create chittas also as many as he wants. Sounds scary, sounds surprising, but for yogi there is no surprise. This is the subject of discussion for the next 4 sutras. In Kaivalya Pada, study of Kaivalya Pada is not very easy. Kaivalya Pada will have sporadic and unrelated sutras. To find out the harmony between these sutras is not very easy unless we read proper bhashyam on it. We will try our level best to connect these properly so that apparently which appears as separate patches in this Kaivalya Pada can be connected together properly. Also, Kaivalya Pada shatters some of our basic understandings and takes us to a new and higher level of understanding. such as the one which we spoke just now, as creating artificial minds. And that means creating artificial shariras. Because what is the creation of artificial mind without the sharira? The chitta, when it is created, the sharira will automatically be created. How that is possible is told in this particular second sutra, Zatyantar Parinamaha Prakrutya Purat. Zatyantar. What is it? Zati Antar, Zatyantar. Zatyantar means one species to another species. One species to another species. For example, the water becomes ice. Ice becomes water. This is not Jatyantar. This is Avastha Antar. The same water which was ice has become again water. This is Avastha Antar. Same person who was asleep is now awake. Avastha Antara. What is Jatyantara? The hydrogen becomes helium. Helium becomes uranium. This is called Jatyantara. The change in the species is called Jatyantara Parinama. So when the new chitta is created, when a new creation comes, there is completely changing from one to another. So let us say there is a horse, and the horse becomes man. The species change. This is called Jatyantara Parinama. Such a parinama is possible because of Prakrutya Purat. Pura is flood, overflow. In Sanskrit, Puram is overflow or flood. Prakrutya Purat, overflooding by Prakruti. What is overflooding by Prakruti? Overflooding by Prakruti means Prakruti is a flow. Creation is a flow. Everything appears static for us, but we have already seen when we discuss the Kshana, we discussed the progression, how everything is in transient mode. We talked about Vartamana, Atita and Anagata. Everything is in a flow. This Prakriti is constantly flowing. Because of our inability to go beyond the time, it appears static. We divide this movement into past, present and future because of our limited intellect. The one who has transcended the limits of time shall understand how the flow of Prakriti is moving constantly at a particular pace, moving forward. Frankly speaking, forward is again a word related to the time. Timeless movement is something beyond the grasp of our imagination, but it happens and yogi sees it. So he is able to see how Prakriti is moving or changing constantly. And this change of Prakriti from A point to B point itself means Jatyantar. At A point there is an animal, at B point there is a human being. So when they see a human being, they know it was A point animal which became a human being. When they see an animal at A point, they know that at P point there was a plant. So there was a plant that became the animal, that became the human, that became the Videha there, that became the Prakrutya Purat, that he is able to see. And Prakrutya Purat means it is just the flow. On the screen when you see, everybody is used to one particular painting where they show the evolution of a man. They show a monkey, then he's rising, then he's standing, and then there is a Homo sapiens that is seen in a picture. We have seen those pictures. Similarly, imagine the kaleidoscope of time being compressed and brought to you. We will be able to see a microbe, then the plant coming, then the animal coming, then the man coming, then the God coming, then God becoming the Ishvara or the Ishvara becoming Purusha. So all this is precisely what in Candlelight Gurudev talks about animal man, plant man. He is talking about the same evolution. And this is nothing else but the same Prakriti taking different shapes. Now, Prakriti is anyway going to take that shape. That is the reason why our Shastra says that everybody is moving towards Kaivalya. But the fact is, why is it that then we are stuck? How is it that the Siddha is able to see that? And by seeing this, what happens to him? How he makes use of this Prakriti for his own use. This is all the aspect that we need to study in the coming sessions of the Kaivalya Pada. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. We'll wait for some questions.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji, Rajendran.
Hari Om.
So some of our mysteries are getting unfolded one by one. Today I have two questions. One is a question which is, after attaining the Kaivalya, the yogi still has his Sharira, which is again a Prakriti, Panchabhutas. So what about that? The body, how is it? Body is then going to full decay, or is still it will survive? What is the position of his body?
The presence of Sharira is the result of the Prarabdha. Now the question is, the Prarabdha has to take its own course and work on the body. However, since the yogi has dissociated himself in principle from the body, he looks at whatever is happening to the body as if the body is not his. So the person who is driving the car all of a sudden realizes that he is not the car. So then he keeps driving. It doesn't matter to him, the car is still driving, but it is not his. The awareness that the car is not his is enough. Stopping the car is not required. Similarly, a new car will never be given to him because his interest in the car is over. So the Shariram, the Karya Vahakam, because of Prarabdha, shall continue to have fructification of Prarabdha if left in the Sharira. But now that his mind is completely without the Prarabdha, either it will drop off. It all depends upon what yogi wants to do, because now he is the master of everything, including his body. So in that case, he may decide to simply leave the body. Sanjivana Samadhi, Jnaneshwar Maharaj took. Or he may just decide to go to the top of Kailasha and just disappear from there. Shankaracharya. Or Ramana Maharshi, he will just cast off the body. This is called casting off the body. It is like you're literally taking out your shirt and keeping it back where it is. The reason for that is he is the one which has gone beyond the usage of the Sharira. Now, whether the Sharira will remain, it will not remain, it will immediately end, it will end after some time. He is the Satya Sankalpa. It is up to him. If he wants to be Sarva Bhuta Hita Rataha, he might continue for some time. Tukaram Maharaj. He immediately said, Tukamane Ata Urlo Upkara Purta. I am now only for the Upkar. He wanted to remain for Upkar. Satya Sankalpa Siddhi. While in case of other people, Tapovan Maharaj didn't decide to do anything. He said, no, I don't want to do Gita Yajna, nothing. Our Gurudeva said, I will go for Gita Yajna. At that point of time, it is nothing else but Ishwar Ichha, because he is Ishwara. And Ishwar Ichha Baliyasi, he will decide based on that things will happen. So Shariram for his is relevant, irrelevant. It all depends on what the consciousness wants to do, because it is no more individualized Sharira. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Yeah, it's very clear. If anybody has any questions, otherwise I will ask one more question.
Sanjay ji, in continuation of Rajendran ji's question, in essence, the body is given to us to attain Kaivalya.
Yes, absolutely.
Ultimately, whether we are reaching to that point or not, it is an individual choice. But the body is as an instrument to reach to the Kaivalya stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this, I have just what is this thing? This Neem Karoli Baba you mentioned, even I have heard of that. But is this yogi still alive or no more existing?
He left the mortals in 70s. He died long back, but he still appears to be a source of inspiration, not much to Indians, but a person like Mark Zuckerberg, a person like Larry Page. You know, the Google, the Facebook, and the Apple, and for that matter, the signage of Apple which you see is because of Neem Karoli Baba, because he was fond of eating apple and he used to bite on the apple and give it as a prasad. And similar prasad was given to this Steve Jobs.
Oh, that's a great thing. I didn't know that. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Yeah, creation of anybody else has got any question, please? Otherwise, I have one more question. Not question actually. The creation of artificial mind. You know, we have a story in Ramayana where Mata Sita has gone for taking a bath along Leva. Then after actually she entrusted Leva to what may be Maharshi and asked him to take care of him. But this boy went after her without the knowledge of Maharshi. After some time, when Maharshi was looking for him, he was missing, and Maharshi got upset, and he, from the kusha, from the grass, he created another soul, which is kushan. There is a tale about this. So is it related to this creation of artificial mind and body? This is what I was thinking.
The creation of mind, and of course, body is not to be created. Body is an appendage which just comes and attaches to the mind. See, body is basically your, it is your trailer. The tractor is more important. The mind is more important. And since the yogi is able to produce the mind, yogi can produce 1,000 minds. Yogi can produce 1,000,000 minds. And all the minds will start working. And all those 1,000 minds work under his mind. How does this happen? How is he able to create these multiple minds? How are they controlled? All this is the discussion for the next 4 sutras. And then evidently what he creates is always like it is coming from his mind. That is why that which is created by him as an artificial mind is equally pure like him. So that is why not only he can create the mind, and to that mind the body gets attached, so sharira formation is there. And not only that, when he desires, he can simply literally switch off this body and get it out of that system. So not only he can create, he can dissolve also. Till the time he wants, he can use it also. And this is precisely what the Lord Krishna Bhagavan is saying, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati sambhavami yuge yuge is this. This Sambhavami concept is what we are going to study in the next session. Hari Om.
Hari Om.